Okay, here's a wild thought for you. What if the next US state wasn't, a territory we already have, but a massive piece of land that belongs to another country? It sounds like something straight out of a movie, but believe it or not, there's a real bill in the US Congress to do exactly that with Greenland. Today, we're going to dive into this very real, very surprising proposal to make the world's largest island the 51st state. So, you have to ask, how serious is this really? Could this huge, semi-autonomous territory of Denmark actually be on a path to joining the United States? I know it sounds like a geopolitical fantasy, but the wheels are already turning in Washington. This conversation is happening right now.
And look, this isn't just talk or some politician floating a crazy idea. There is an actual formal bill on the table in the US Congress, a bill that aims to basically redraw the map of North America. So let's get into the details of this pretty audacious plan.
Okay, so what are we actually looking at? The proposal is officially called the Greenland Annexation and Statehood Act, and you really got to pay attention to the wording here. It would give the president the authority to use, and I'm quoting here, all necessary means to make it happen. Now, that is an incredibly broad mandate. It signals a very, very assertive stance, and of course raises all sorts of questions about sovereignty and international law.
All right, but that just begs the bigger question, why? Why now? What's the big rush? Well, the answer lies at the top of the world, in the rapidly changing Arctic, which, let's be honest, is quickly becoming a new global chessboard for the big international powers.
The bill is pretty upfront about its main motivation. This is a direct strategic move, and it's all about pushing back against the growing influence of Russia and China. As that polar ice melts, new shipping lanes and valuable resources are opening up, and it's pretty clear the US is worried about getting outmaneuvered in its own hemisphere.
So what you're really seeing here is a classic geopolitical struggle. From the U.S. perspective, having control over Greenland is key to protecting its own backyard and those new trade routes. At the same time, any move by Russia or China to get a foothold up there is seen as a direct threat to America's long-term security.
And the guy who wrote the bill, Congressman Randy Fine, he doesn't mince words about this at all. The strategy is obvious. It's preemption. The thinking is that the U.S. has to get there first to block its adversaries from gaining a major strategic advantage at the top of the world.
Okay, so we get the why, this perceived threat from other global powers. But why Greenland specifically? What makes it the ultimate prize in this new Arctic competition? Its value is about way more than just being a huge chunk of land on a map. From a U.S. security perspective, Greenland is seen as absolutely indispensable. Now, of course, this is looking at the island purely as a strategic asset, and it kind of sets aside the fact that, almost 60,000 people live there with their own government and deep, deep ties to Denmark. But let's break down the key strategic arguments being made. It really comes down to three big things. First, its location is just incredible. It's like a gatekeeper controlling those emerging Arctic shipping routes. Second, it's just a massive geographical buffer between the US and Russia. And third, under all that ice, there's a potential treasure trove of untapped mineral resources. It's a really powerful mix of geography, defense, and economics.
And if this whole idea sounds a little familiar, you're not wrong. This legislation is basically an attempt to take former President Trump's very public interest in buying Greenland and turn it into official U.S. policy. It's a move designed to transform all that high-profile talk into a concrete plan of action.
So to make a move this big, this audacious in the 21st century, the bill's supporters are actually dusting off a playbook that's 200 years old. They're reviving an old foreign policy doctrine to deal with what they see as a very modern threat.
And that policy? It's the Monroe Doctrine. It goes all the way back to the 1820s, and it's a core U.S. principle that pretty much declares the Western Hemisphere as America's sphere of influence and off-limits to other foreign powers.
So how do you connect a policy from the 1800s to today? Well, the bill's sponsor lays it out pretty clearly with this quote. He's arguing that the presence of Russia and China in the Arctic totally justifies a new, more assertive U.S. stance, one that's right in the spirit of the old Monroe Doctrine. It's all about reinterpreting an old idea for a new era of global competition.
So, here we are. A formal bill in Congress, rising global tensions. The question isn't really if a race for the Arctic will happen, but how it's all going to unfold. This proposal for Greenland might just be the opening shot in a new great game, with the future of the entire region and maybe even global power dynamics hanging in the balance. The real question is, what happens next?